In a moment, you will hear two stories exploring the emotions of two pregnancies and two women. Women from different walks of life, but in the end, women who made a choice. May we raise our voices for those who cower in fear, conflicted with half-truths and notions unclear of what it means to be a woman without a choice, of what it means to choose without a choice at all. Pro-women who are alive, pro-women who need more time to thrive, for those who aren't ready, and for those whose choice is only to be alive. This is what it means
to be human.